Second part I want to talk about, and this is mainly in relation to weight loss, of what's working against you in relation to your thermostat. I'm talking about your hypothalamus, because again, this is all inspired by cold temperature out there. And in the previous video, I talked about the things that will happen to get me to maintain my my internal body temperature. If I were to step outside and inside of our homes or inside of the building, how a thermostat reacts to get to our back to our set point. One thing working against you is the food environment. When I say the food environment, I'm not necessarily speaking specifically to your pantry or your cupboards or whatever you got at home, but that is included in the food environment in the sense of food's been more hyper palatable than it's ever been. There's never been this many food chemists and food scientists working to make it this hyper palatable, and there hasn't been as many tools as there have been. Even if you're one of those people that's like, I do carnivore or I'm on a paleo diet and stuff like that, like almonds can be honey roasted, can be salted and all that kind of, like, it's better than it's ever been. If you're a carnivore guy and you like, I shot this bison with an arrow and I cooked it myself, like, you probably cooked it on a cast iron skillet, you probably put butter on it, and you may have put seasoning on it, which would have tasted a lot better than it would have tasted 150 years ago. Like, across the board, food tastes better. In relation to food tasting better, we have more variety than we've ever had. I can eat foods from all across the world and it can be at my grocery store. It's not, no longer do we have to rely on, well, the soil didn't produce this crop this year, so this area won't get this sort of thing. I can just drive 20 minutes one of the ways and get the variety that I want. And leading into what I just said is the third part about a food environment is the convenience. It's not that far away. It doesn't require much to get. It's better that way. You can DoorDash it. Before it was just delivery. Now it's literally, I can DoorDash groceries or do the grocery cart shit right to your house, stuff like that. So that's working against you. If you're trying to lose weight, understand that your food environment's working against you. How can I mitigate that food environment? That's why people are saying, like, hey, do minimally processed food, because that shit's gonna taste better. If it tastes better, you're gonna over consume it. Sure, because you're just human, and it's still in our DNA to get as much food get as much food in us as possible. If you were to go back 2,000 or go back 1,500 years ago, it didn't benefit somebody to say, oh no, I'm good with food. So, like, to understand that's part of everyone's DNA, regardless of what island or whatever the fuck you came from. Like, that's part of it. The other part of it is the internal side of it. So say if I've been on a diet, I've lost 15, 20 pounds, more likely than not, if someone has done this before, they have reached what they, what is described as a plateau. What has happened is, more likely than not, even if their calories have stayed the same, their metabolic rate has lowered. That is crazy that can even happen, but your body's acting as a thermostat. It'll lower its metabolic rate. In relation to lowering its metabolic rate, you could also lower your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's just called NEAT, so not exercising. So, like, you could still exercise 5 days, 3 days a week and stuff like that, but to be aware that the everyday movement, see how, like, I'm kind of like fidgeting around, stuff like that, that may start to lessen, to dampen the blow for the thermostat, to mitigate the drop in the calories. Like, hey, if I'm supposed to be at 180, I'm sitting over here at 160. How do I get back to 180? Well, make this motherfucker move less. Like, even though the willpower takes him to go exercise, like, maybe instead of doing us all movement, I may just sit down. I may not move as much. Say if I take a call, for me, if I take a call, I'm normally gonna walk around. It's just naturally what I do. But if I am under weight loss, if I start to lose a higher percentage of calories, I'll start to move less. So to be aware that will happen. So being aware of your food environment, the 3 things I listed, being aware that yes, your metabolic rate will start to slow down because your body's thinks that you're trying to kill it and it wants to not die. And in relation to lower your metabolic rate, it will also lower your non-exercise activity thermogenesis. That's just called NEAT. And the last thing is your food motivation will peak. So you just start thinking about it more. So that's like, it's kind of akin to what I mentioned in the first video of when I was like, if I'm cold outside, I'll start thinking of what to do to warm myself up. Maybe I'll start to squat. Maybe I like my behavior. My behavior is moved by my thinking, and my thinking will change, and I'll get more reward from my food. So to be aware of those steps there. Now, although those things seem like a lot, it's not like the end of the world. It's not like there's no way you can beat that. There's ways to beat that. In the next video, I'll tell you the ways to beat that.